Sometimes the people who love us the most are the ones who struggle the hardest to show it. And nowhere is this more true than with parents. So if you grew up with a mom or a dad who cared deeply, who sacrificed quietly yet somehow made you feel unseen or emotionally distant, this video is for you. If you grew up in a home where the love was present but unspoken, where affection existed but rarely surfaced in words, touch, or openness, you are not imagining it. So many parents love fiercely but silently. They love with everything in them but show almost none of it in ways their children can understand. And as we get older, we carry questions in our hearts. Why couldn't they say, "I'm proud of you"? Why did it feel like their love came wrapped in conditions, expectations, or silence? Why did it feel easier for them to worry about us than to simply embrace us? Why was it so hard for them to be soft? The truth is, many parents were never taught how to express love, only how to survive. They learned responsibility before vulnerability, duty before tenderness, and sacrifice before emotional safety. And so they raised their children with full hearts but guarded hands, hoping their actions would speak for feelings they never learned to name. And for many of us, it created a strange kind of emotional hunger. We were fed, clothed, protected, cared for, yet starved of emotional warmth. It's a confusing wound because it isn't neglect born from lack of care. It's neglect born from lack of emotional literacy. Imagine this. A father wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning, works a job that drains him, brings home food, pays school fees, fixes broken doors, ensures his children never feel the poverty he felt. To him, this is love. But his child waits for something else. A hug, an "I love you," a conversation where they feel seen, not just provided for. The father looks at the child and thinks, "Everything I do is for you." The child looks at the father and thinks, "But you don't really know me." Two truths exist at once. Two hearts beating in the same home, both longing for connection, both misunderstanding the other's language. Many parents grew up in families where emotions were private, where softness was mocked or punished, where love was implied but never spoken. And when they finally became parents, they did what they knew. They repeated patterns handed down to them, not because they wanted to, but because no one ever gave them the tools to do differently. There's a kind of love that is quiet, a love that shows up in the background, a love that repairs the broken things, that pays the bills unnoticed, that silently watches over you when you sleep. But love that hides in silence can feel like absence to a child who needs closeness, not just protection. A child who needs to feel seen, not just cared for. You may remember moments that confused you, like the time you cried and your parent told you to stop, because tears don't solve anything. Or the day you tried to express your feelings and they said, "What do you mean you're sad? You have everything." Or when you did something amazing and they simply nodded, because praise felt foreign to them. Or when they bought you gifts instead of giving you affection, because it was the only way they knew how to show love without feeling vulnerable. Or those years when they could guide, lecture, provide, and control, but never open up emotionally. It felt like their love was behind a locked door, a door even they didn't know how to open. The psychology behind this is simple. Many parents operate with one emotional instinct: protection. To them, love equals safety. Safety equals survival, and survival equals success. They do not always understand that emotional connection is part of this safety. They think shielding you from their struggles is love. They think being tough teaches you strength. They think their silence prevents you from carrying their burdens. They think loving from a distance keeps you from depending too much. They think worrying constantly proves their care. But children do not interpret love through sacrifice alone. Children interpret love through presence, through warmth, through words, through expressions, through emotional access. And when a parent cannot give that, A child grows up feeling like they must earn love, like they must perform for affection, like love is conditional, like they are never enough, like their emotions don't matter, like they should keep their pain to themselves because their parents did too. And so the cycle continues. Let me tell you about someone. Let's call her Amara. Amara grew up with a mother who worked 2 jobs. A mother who never hugged her, never asked how she was feeling, never said, "I love you." But every day her mother cooked for her, paid her school fees, left small treats on her bed, and defended her from the world. When Amara became an adult, she realized that she felt grateful, but she also felt alone. She loved her mother, but she didn't know her. And she didn't know how to explain that she needed something more, a softness her mother could not give. One day she asked her mother, "Why didn't you ever show affection? Why didn't you ever talk to us about feelings?" And her mother, with tired eyes, said, "Because nobody ever did that for me. I thought giving you a better life was enough." That's the sentence you hear from so many parents. I thought it was enough. They never realize that for a child, the emotional gap becomes a lifelong echo. Another example, a father named Musa. Musa grew up under a strict parent who believed that success required discipline and fear. So he raised his son the same way, firm, distant, emotionally unavailable. He bought clothes, he bought gadgets, he paid for school, he taught morals, but he never hugged his son, never celebrated him, never said, "I am proud of you." One day his son broke down and said, "Dad, when will you ever tell me you love me?" Musa froze, because he thought his son already knew. To him, love was obvious. It was in the roof over his head, the food on the table, the opportunities he never had. But to his son, it felt like emotional starvation. These stories are more common than we admit, and the psychology behind them is often rooted in emotional deprivation. Many parents grew up in homes where emotions were seen as weakness, homes where talking back was disrespectful, homes where expressing needs was ungrateful, homes where everyone struggled silently. So they learned to bury their emotions so deeply that showing love became uncomfortable, even threatening, because vulnerability felt unsafe. These parents love with intensity, but fear intimacy. They love with sacrifices, but fear softness. They love with presence, but fear being emotionally present. Some parents are emotionally distant because of trauma, others because of culture, others because of upbringing, some because they're overwhelmed and exhausted, some because anxiety makes them overprotective but underexpressive, some because they fear that showing love will make a child too dependent, some because they genuinely don't know how to express what they feel. Imagine a mother who grew up being told, "Don't cry, don't complain, don't embarrass yourself." That mother will struggle to comfort a crying child, not because she doesn't care, but because she never learned the language of emotional soothing. Imagine a father who grew up being told, "Men don't show weakness." That father will struggle to show affection to his children, not because he doesn't love them, but because he's been trained to believe that love expressed openly makes him vulnerable. The psychology here is deeper than we think. When someone grows up without emotional validation, they form what psychologists call an avoidant attachment style, a tendency to withdraw emotionally even when they care deeply. These parents are not cold, they are scared. They are not uncaring, they are untrained. They are not unloving, they are unhealed. And many of them don't even realize the effect this has on their children. They don't know that a child studies a parent's face to learn emotional safety. They don't know that a child absorbs the unspoken tension in the home. They don't know that a child internalizes every frown, every sigh, every silence. They don't know that their children crave the gentleness they were denied. They don't know that their inability to communicate becomes their child's inner voice. They don't know that the emotional distance they think is normal becomes a wound their child carries into adulthood, into relationships, into parenting. They don't know because no one ever taught them. And yet here's the part we rarely acknowledge. They tried their best with what they knew. Their love wasn't perfect. Their love wasn't expressive. Their love wasn't warm. But it was still love, just in a language we didn't understand. So what does healing look like? It begins with understanding. Understanding the child in you that deserved warmth, and understanding the parent in them who didn't know how to give it. Healing doesn't mean excusing. It means recognizing the human story behind the behavior. It means acknowledging that your parent had a childhood too, that your mother may have been the strong one because she had no choice, that your father may have been emotionally distant because he was taught that emotions were dangerous, that their silence was not rejection of you, but survival for them. And maybe this is the part where you realize something. Your parents' struggle to express love has shaped the way you express love. Maybe you struggle to open up in relationships. Maybe you look confident but feel emotionally alone. Maybe you avoid vulnerability because you were never shown it.
Maybe you crave closeness, but fear it at the same time. Maybe you apologize for your emotions because you were taught they are too much. Maybe you learn to love people by fixing them, protecting them, or sacrificing for them, the same way your parents loved you. And if you have children now, maybe you're trying to love differently. Maybe you're trying to break the cycle. Maybe you're trying to say, "I love you" more often, even when it feels awkward. Maybe you're trying to hug your child, even when it feels foreign. Maybe you're trying to ask them how they feel, even when you were never asked the same. Healing is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming softer than what hurt you. And here's the beautiful thing about cycles. They don't break in one dramatic moment. They break in small choices. A gentle word, a different reaction, a willingness to pause, breathe, and not repeat what was done to you. A promise to raise your children with the emotional safety you never had. Sometimes breaking a generational pattern is simply saying, "I will not pass down what broke me." And if you're listening to this right now, maybe there's a part of you that still wishes your parents could show love differently. Maybe you still wish they could say the things you needed to hear. Maybe you wish they could open up, apologize, or simply acknowledge the impact of their silence. And maybe they never will. Some parents soften with age. Some change when they become grandparents. Some never change at all. But healing doesn't always require them to transform. Sometimes healing begins with you, understanding something very simple. You deserved more emotional closeness than you received. And your parents did the best they could with the emotional tools they had. Both can be true. And in that tension, healing starts. If your parents loved you quietly, distantly, imperfectly, it doesn't mean you were unworthy of warmth. It means you grew up in a home where love was a burdened language, a language spoken through actions, not emotions, a language spoken through worry, not connection, a language spoken through sacrifice, not vulnerability. And maybe this video is your sign to rewrite that language for yourself, to unlearn the silence, to unlearn the emotional distance, to unlearn the fear of vulnerability, to unlearn the belief that love must be earned, to unlearn the idea that you have to be strong all the time. Because love, real love, requires openness. It requires presence. It requires softness. And maybe you are the generation that brings emotional warmth back into your family line. Maybe you are the first one to say "I love you," the first one to embrace without awkwardness, the first one to validate emotions instead of dismissing them, the first one to let children cry without guilt, the first one to create a home where feelings are safe, not suppressed, the first one to break the silence. And if you want, you can still make peace with your parents. Not the fantasy version of them, not the emotionally perfect version, but the real version. Flawed, human, shaped by their own childhoods. You can connect with them in ways they understand. A small conversation, a gentle question, a shared memory. Sometimes parents open up, not because they were never willing to, but because no one ever invited them to. Some parents soften when you become an adult because the pressure of raising you is gone. Some soften when they see you express emotions freely. Some soften because they finally feel safe expressing what they once feared. And some may never soften, but that doesn't mean you cannot heal. Before we end, I want to offer you a reflection moment, a quiet space to breathe and look within. Think about this question, gently, without judgment. Did your parents love you in ways you couldn't feel? And did you want love in ways they couldn't give? If the answer is yes, then you are part of a very human story. A story of families who love deeply, but express it imperfectly. A story of parents who tried, but didn't know how. A story of children who longed, but never received enough. And now, your story doesn't have to end there. You can write the next chapter with more tenderness than what was handed to you. You can become the parent or the adult who leads with emotional clarity instead of emotional fear. You can build a home where love is not silent, where feelings are not hidden, where vulnerability is not punished, where affection is not awkward, where connection is not distant, where love is not implied, but expressed openly, warmly, freely. And maybe one day your children will look back and say, "My parents loved loudly. My parents loved fully. My parents loved in a way that healed us." And in that moment, you would have broken a cycle your parents were never able to break. So take a deep breath. Let the softness in. Let the healing begin. Let the story change.